I'm here at Angkor Wat. This is my second time here after spending about 4 days in a mixture of temples. I have a 7-day temple pass, so that gets me in. I came here on the first day, and there's a lot to process and a lot to absorb about Hinduism and the gods and the secret verses of this holy water. There's this amazing wall here that explains a little bit about the history of the Amarati, which is the secret water of God that gives eternal life, which was given to Shiva, promising, for everlasting life in that sense. So these are mystical mythologies and folklore stories, so we're going to actually explore that a little bit more in depth, because after Shiva discovered this water of life, he then wrote 107 verses to the secret drinking of Shivambu. He gave it to his wife. The gods only knew about this, it wasn't for everybody. So I'm going to revisit the wall, and I'll take you all through Angkor Wat throughout, just to explain different locations, because there's a lot of temples here that are devoted to Hinduism and to Shiva. So we're going to explore. According to the Shivaism sect, is the highest form of Shiva is formless, limitless, transcendent, unchanging, absolute. Basically the center of self, the center of universe, all that is created. So the art of drinking Shivambu is to become centered, to become oneself and one with the universe, and understanding a higher level, or your higher self. And the longer you drink Shivambu, the more you become aware of self, the more you start to listen to your inner things. And the monks here used to do their morning meditation, drink Shivambu in the morning, and the meditation, you would have a lot more clarity when drinking this form. So the purification of that becomes better and better. In the scriptures they do say to drink first in the morning, early morning. So if you're waking up early around the 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock time is the best prime time to drink. I'm just here in the Bayon Temple, and it's so beautiful. The faces built into the side, and just incredible feeling here. And there's just these little signs and little clues of symbolisms of Shiva and other sort of things all incorporated here. There's these incredible carvings on the wall. I mean, you could decipher it anyway, really, but and what it means to you as a person in general. I'm more on a different journey here. I'm more on the Shivambu journey, and looking for little insights and clues that may resonate to the findings and discovery of what I'm searching for. As you can see, the corridors are full of yonis and lingas, which are the symbols of Shiva and the holy water here in the Temple of Bayon. In verse 7 they talk about the collection of urine. It starts with, the first concluding flow of urine is to be left out, and the intermediate flow of urine is to be collected. This is the best method. This follows on in verse 8. The follower of the therapy should use his own urine. It is called Shivambu. However, just as the mouth of the tail of the serpent contain poison, similarly the first and the concluding flow of urine are not wholesome. Why I've kind of said midstream, and the reason they would probably get there is because back in that time there was a lot of diseases and illnesses, so the first part of the urine was considered unclean, and the follow part, the end part of the urine, was also considered unclean. So verse 5 talks about food and diet. So those who follow this therapy should avoid pungent and salty ingredients. And urine is pretty salty in itself, so you don't want to add extra saltiness to it. And pungent food, such as spices and things like that, can alter the flavour of urine. So let it be the guide. When you do the tasting, it sort of regulates and teaches you, what is good and what is not. They say that you should never over-exert yourself. He should follow a balanced and light diet, and that could be meat eating as well. It doesn't necessarily mean vegetarian, but people get really concerned saying I eat meat and do urine therapy. It doesn't really change anything, so it doesn't change the benefits or so forth. It just can change the flavour technically, so that can be one of the sort of insights and rules to this therapy. He should sleep on the ground and control all senses. And control all senses, I mean, that could be when you're drinking it, you might have this sense of repulsiveness and so forth, so it's about controlling that senses. But also other senses, it's about being aware of your body as well. So as you come more into this therapy, you start to learn a bit more about yourself, and it says that further down in the scriptures as we'll cross into some of the verses. So knowing thyself and knowing how godlike you become. Well, behind me is the Temple of Shiva. It was built by the king to his god, I guess, that he worshipped, which is Shiva. And during his reign, it gets built, and then when they die, the next king builds a new temple to devote to whoever. So originally Hinduism, and then the Buddhists moved in, but along the way that during the history of Cambodia and the new government, Khmer Rouge was running the country. They kicked everybody out. So those foreigners took the papers with them. So nobody knows now where these pieces are supposed to go. And of course, the temple never got completed. The Buddhists came in, and then they started to build bits and pieces and take parts of rocks from other temples to sort of make other things with as well. Verses 96 to about 97 in Shivambu talks about kind of the recipes and ingredients throughout the season. So you have sort of wet season, which is kind of now, July, August. So wet season, it sort of rains for about an hour to 2 hours between 1 and 3 o'clock, and then it dries up. And then there's the rainy season, which rains all day, so you get a lot of rain continuous throughout. Then you've got the heat of the summer season. You have different energies in the change of the season, no different to like being home when you're going through winter and summer and autumn and so on. So it just becomes different to what you're accustomed to. So it gives you sort of recipes, things like pepper and ginger powder, plants and flowers and things like that as well. One of the recipe calls for the lotus root. This is what a lotus looks like. So it's a dried lotus, so the lotus plant. You see these in a lot of meals where they just slice along the way, and you've got those little holes, and you see them in the soups and stuff. So that has really good medicinal purposes and power as well. Well, I've seen about 15 temples so far, all very beautiful, amazing just to wander through. This one also built for Shiva, and it's got a lot of little peaks and the little elephants floating around here. So I'm going to read verse 26. The stomach powder of Kosnatura should be taken with Shivambu constantly for a period of 12 years. The token of old age, wrinkles, skin and grey hair, etc. will vanish. Man having the strength of 10,000 elephants will live long as the moon and the planet exists. Now, this stomach powder was good for things, it was kind of a laxative really. So obviously at the time food was a bit hard to digest, so you could get clogged up, so it reacted as a laxative, which is also a good cleanser. And the meaning is movement. Elephants were represented as kings would ride in them, as strength, because they built these amazing temples. These elephants helped in the construction, so they built empires and kingdoms and shrines to the gods. So if you are as strong as 100 elephants, the metaphor behind that is, you know, your health is always going to be great. So Shivambu had this residence to strengthen longevity and the power of the drinking of urine. Vontiestere is the name of the temple here. The carvings, the detail is so intricate, and the stone so pink, and this was also devoted to Shiva again. So many of the details and many of the carvings, we're going to actually have a look at one of the carvings which has got Shiva at the top of it, at the entrance of the doorway. And what a beautiful location to talk about a few more of the verses. And right above me here is Shiva, who is dancing. As you can see, multiple arms. This beautiful temple's known for its pink rock and usage. So you'll find a lot of temples throughout here are all about, you know, honouring Shiva, the creator. And so we'll talk about a couple more verses when I find somewhere nice and quiet. It was kind of dubbed the Ladies' Palace because of the colour of the pink rock. So I want to talk about Shivambu and verses 71 and 72. So 71 talks about the root of the Apamaraga, if I'm saying that correctly, mixed with the juice of the neem leaves, should be taken forward by Shivambu. So that kind of continues on in the next verse, which is 72. He will be relieved from ailments of takers of old age. Now, many people know that talking about urine therapy, you start to find that the wrinkles disappear and you de-age yourself and things like that. It goes on to say that wrinkles and greying of hair will disappear. He possesses excellent long eyesight with distances of miles and miles. And I've talked about this in other blogs about restoring your eyesight. So I've met many people that are drinking it to do that, and their eyesight has changed and they've got clearer and more clarity. So that clarity is not just about the eyes, but the internal clarity as well. So the metaphor of seeing things and seeing people for who they are. So you start to see through things, you start to have a higher sense of power. So you kind of get a sense who's good and who's not good as well. But restoring eyesight, whether you're using it internally, which is what they're talking about, which is the drinking of Shivambu. These days, our modern edge is to use it externally, like washing the eyes. So they never talked about that in the scriptures. They probably didn't have eye cups or ways to do that, I guess. So we've taken it to the next level. So for those who want to restore that inner eye, the third eye, the external eye, the inner eye of the self and knowledge, Shivambu is very powerful for that. Just sitting here next to one of the trees, and the banyan tree is also known in the scriptures in verse 78. It says to use the gum of the banyan tree. It should be mixed with the powder of the seeds of the karaja. A small quantity of opium should be added to this mixture. It should be taken early morning, followed by Shivambu. Now, the spiritual significance of the banyan tree back in Hindu religion was where one of the monks had sat down there and he had enlightenment. But also, when you go into the Hindu religion, the banyan tree is significant to be a resemblance to Shiva, are thought to be a spiritual significance, with Lord Shiva being the branches, Lord Vishnu, which is the bark of the tree, and Lord Brahma, which is the large powerful roots of the tree. Basically the tree also has really helpful medicinal aspects. So for instance, it can help with diarrhea, teeth and gums. It's an immune booster. It's anti-inflammatory, so if you've got arthritis and those sort of things, it's really good. It's an antioxidant. So it was used in Ayurvedic medicine quite many years ago, so the gum and all those sort of things are very useful. What else can we tell? It's antifungal, it lowers cholesterol, it's great for arthritis. Sorry, I've just got an ant biting my bum. Helps reduce vomiting and so forth. So the bark and the fruit of the leaves and the roots have a milky sort of sap to them, and the bark can be used for healing. A lot of these temples were devoted to Shiva. This Yuli used to have the linga in the middle there, which is just a representation of Shiva. Pavarotti being the female, the penis representation of fertility is the best way to put it. So this would be blessing the water, so the water of Shiva. So it would go around the linga. Obviously, drinking the water that is holy and then drinking your own is more blessed, giving you longevity. And you'll see these throughout Cambodia, so significance in the healing and the godlike purification, if you want. And if you follow Dr. Imoto with water construction and having blessed water and so forth, and understanding when he froze water, when you talk to water with love and so forth, that it changes the structure of water. And this is the information when you have, with the Shivambu, where they faced a certain direction and blessed or said their mantras, because it was blessing the water before they drank the water. So that changes the structure. So if you're doing Shivambu and, facing to the gods, for instance, and blessing the water and saying a little mantra, it can change the construction of the water. So those crystallizations that can happen then you're drinking might amplify the effects of Orion therapy. I'm just walking around this place and it's absolutely amazing. It's divided into 4 corners. The corridors kind of look like mirrors, and they worship different sections like Shiva, Brahma and so forth. So absolutely amazing. And there's something really sacred about this whole process and sacred about the religion, and there has to be that respect as well. And with Shiva, we see the fact that Shivambu was very sacred and personal, and we see that in verse 107, which is the last one where he talks to his wife, and he says he's narrated the details of Shivambu Kabba. This is a technique. Attempts should be made to keep it a secret. Do not tell anybody. Well, cat's out of the bag now, because we are telling absolutely everybody. Become your own god, become your own power. So they kept this secret for many years. It was lost. I mean, the Sanskrit texts don't exist. A lot of these temples don't have any writings on the wall, that have no history or markings or anything like that, because they were living their truth. They were living in their kingdoms and living their experiences, and therefore they didn't leave any traces of elements. Like Egypt, they had scriptures and hieroglyphics written on the walls, whereas these places were, well, there's an abundance of them, so they were just left as what they were, because they were living in the moment. They were experiencing, their religion and their beliefs, so they didn't find it necessary to write on the walls, which I guess a lot of this history gets lost in its translation. It just was a way of life for them, and they were just who they were, living in their moment.